Ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí ètò. Ní section yìí, I want to talk about debugging because steadily we are getting into the real deal, coding. When you write programs, sometimes it is inevitable that you find errors. When you find such errors, the next thing you do is fix them. Errors occur when your code is not giving you the expected output. We refer to the term error as bug. Let me tell you a short story about bug. In the early days of coding in 1940, a programmer realized something was wrong with their system, and she traced the error to a bug, a real-life bug. And since then, they started referring to computer errors as bug. I didn't make that up, I promise you. So, it doesn't matter that you're just learning Python, professionals get into errors as well. I think they're A common way to fix error in Python is debugging. But today, I wouldn't be going into errors quite yet. I will only be showing you how to use the debug to find values of variables. And here is how it is done. I have opened a Python file in my environment called debugging.py, and let's say I want to declare a variable called my var. Okay, so my var, I'm assigning a string value to it. Let's say I'm assigning container to it. So it shouldn't matter where I put my print statement. If I wanted to get the value of my var, I do print, then open the bracket, and put the variable name. As you can see, the variable name. So if I do Python, the name of the file, .py, then I should get container. Timba declare variable me, be most of number 1, timo defuni float, timo funi 9.7. If I come over here and I print num1, then I should get 9.7, as you can see here. If I copy this print my var and I put it on line 4, it shouldn't matter that I'm putting it on line 4. I should still get my var. I should still get container, which is what I printed here at line 4, and line 7 gave me 9.7. So checking the values of these variables, I will show you. In debugging, there's something called breakpoint. So look at my mouse. If I hover on this part of the screen, you'll see this red dot coming at every point the cursor is pointing to. Okay, at every number, there's this red dot moving. So if I click on it, let's say I click on number 4, the red dot stays. The same way, if I click on line 7, the red dot stays. This red dot is called breakpoint. Breakpoint is just a way to tell the computer that when you are executing this code, stop at this red place, which is line 4 in this instance. Okay. Also, when the computer is executing this code, stop at line 7. What I want you to know is that computers execute code starting at line 1. Every time the computer is about to run, the execution is about to bury. Line 1 lo ti man bury. Share understand? Line 1 lo ti man bury. Now, timba fe ko stop at any point in time, mo ma fi breakpoint ìyẹn kini ready yìí. Tó bá yẹ pé mo fẹ́ kó stop ní line 6, mo máa tẹ line 6 yẹn mọ́lẹ̀, red. The red would show up and the execution would pause at that line. The next thing I want to show you is this debugging icon. Okay, it has a bug on it. Then once you open that, you see this section come up, and I want you to create a launch.json file. If this is the first time you're doing it, just like we're doing it now, click on this create launch.json file and click on Python file because we're doing Python. So when you do that, you get this file, name Python current file. So which means that every time you're running your debugging, you're running it on that current file. Over here at the top, you see run, and you see another green thing that when you hover on it, it says start debugging. So when you do start debugging, it chooses the first one, current file, which is what we have here, Python current file. Okay. So I'm going to close this launch.json and close these other files. So there's also something here, my var. If you look at your watch, it shows up. You can remove the expression if you don't already have it. A way to add it is clicking on this plus and writing your variable name, my var. So this watch, just like the name says, is that you're watching the variable at every point in time. So at this point, this my var is not available because the program is not running yet. So I want to watch something else. I want to watch this variable called num1. I can do plus, add the expression num1. I click enter. So debugging, when you want to start debugging, you go back to this corner where you have the Python file and where you have this green plating. So when you click on it, the execution starts. But something I want you to know is that the execution starts at line 1. I will do that again and show you. So I can put my breakpoint at line 1 just to show you that it starts at line 1. So when I click on it, it goes through here and stops at the first thing that has the variable. If I declare a variable on line 1, let's say I declare variable x equals to 9, and I put a breakpoint on line 1, then I do play, then the execution is going to stop at 1 because my breakpoint is on 1. Okay, so there are some icons here or buttons, if I may put it like that. The first one is continue. Okay, when I do continue, it does nothing but to just see, it goes to the next breakpoint. The next one is called step over. When you hover on it, you see step over. So basically, step over means just go to the next thing. Do not jump to the next breakpoint, but just jump to the next line of code. That's what step over means. Then the next one is the step into. When you have something like functions, when we get there, we would talk about it. Then the next one is also step out. So your step into goes inside the function thing, and the step out steps out of the function thing. And you can stop your debugging here by pressing this stop. So let's do that again. I'm putting my breakpoint on line 1. So the breakpoint would, the execution of the code would pause at line 1 when the program starts. But I have to press this thing on the left. If I press this one on the right, then nothing happens. It just runs the program. So this plating on the left means that I want to start debugging. So when I do over, if you take a look at these locals mean all my local variables. Okay? All my local variables, they show up here. So because I have x here, I can see x here equals to 9. But at this point, the control or the computer is still at line 3. So when I do step over, which means go to the next line of code, then my next variable, my var, comes and it shows here, which means my var is container, whatever I assign to it. So also watching my var, this is like, you know, I'm variable sonokun. She gets. So now, because number one is not yet, the computer does not know number one yet. The control is not there. That's why we're seeing this name error. So when I do print my var, it looks at what is inside my var. What's inside it is this string container. Remember I told you string these quote. It looks at string container, then it prints the container, which is what we have down here. The next thing is the next line of code is assigning 9.7 to this variable, number one. When I do step over, you see the error is gone. Now I can also see num1 in my local. Then I print num1, 9.7. So what I just did now is called debugging. So this way, it is useful for me to monitor what the value of my variable is at every point in time. Good. So let's go further. I'm going to remove this, okay? Then remove these breakpoints for now. Look, I have my var equals to container. When I print my var, I should get container, right? Okay, sorry about that. So when I print my var, I should get container. Python debugging.py. So I should get container because as a line 4, my var is still container, but your variables can change. You can decide to change your variables. What I mean by changing your variables is changing the values in your variables. So my var is container at line 4. I can decide to remove what's inside my var and set it to something else. 89, which is now an integer, a positive whole number. When I print my var, do you expect it to be container or 89? Let's check it out. It's not going to be container, it's going to be 89, which means my variable values can change. So I'm going to put a breakpoint here and start my debug on this left hand side. So when I do this, so right now the computer is still, the control is on line 2. When I step over, it gets the value of my var, and what do we have? Container. So when it goes to line 4, let's see what happens. Is that the container changes from, my var changes from container to 89, because at this line 4, I have now set the value from my var to, from container to 89. So when I do print my var, so now it prints 89. But when I do print my var over here, as a line 4, the value inside my var has not changed. So it prints container here, it prints 89 at line 6. Let me show you. So when I do this, I am debugging. When I step over, my var is container. Also here, it is container. When I do print, it prints container. Then when it gets to line 6, the value changes from container to 89 because I have now assigned 89 to my var. Then when I print my var, now I get 89. So that is, it is about debugging. In the next section, we are going to be doing something else where we see how this debugging come into play further. For now, just practice on this debugging, assigning values to variables, different values, and see how it goes. Let me know how you feel about it in the comment. And if you're not already subscribing, kindly subscribe and like this video if you like it. And I'll see you in the next video. Ẹ ṣé gan. Ó dàbọ̀.